Hello and welcome to the Alchemist Inkwell.
This is your spiritual podcast for grounded people.
I'm Emily, and I overslept this morning by like an hour and a half, and it was a very painful situation. So I still feel like I am barely functioning.
It's okay. I'm KristaLyn, and I'm doing a weird morning sort of situation after this weekend as well. So we're both a little off today, um, which I think you
Morning
need.
and morning. It's a double
Morning,
on. I had to double pun you. I know that's
morning.
what's the intention, but
Yeah,
I'm
you
sorry.
were having morning problems, and I was having morning problems.
Hmm.
Yeah. So for
Yeah.
the record, Emily slept in this morning and got what I would assume was needed rest, because why else would your alarms not go off unless you needed it, which I honor and respect. And that gave me time to process the loss of my final grandparent and to write an obituary for him, which is like this really unique honor that I've had. All four of my grandparents, I've gotten to write their obituaries and just sort of, it feels very like a show called Not Dead Yet, where the person writes obituaries and kind of is a medium for the spirits of those people, helping them sort of recap their life and then move on. And that was a nice way to say goodbye. And kudos to the spiritus of AI for making me cry this morning when I checked myself with an AI template for obituaries of just like, did I miss anything? And then at the end, it was like, condolences for your loss. I didn't tell it I lost anybody. It just presumed and presumed correctly. And I got to have a nice little cry. So
Oh my gosh, I mean, thank you to the spiritus of AI.
yeah,
We appreciate the love.
yeah,
The fact that it knows we should be sad, like, it's not.
right. Like it's probably hard for you. I wouldn't know.
I don't have emotion. That being said, it's been wild. I've been watching the whole AI problem they have on Facebook. Because AI, basically what's happened on Facebook is Facebook let AI create their own accounts, and now AI is creating posts from those accounts that all the other AI accounts are now liking. So Facebook has this huge problem right now of like almost a hive style of AI because AI keeps creating posts and then creating post or creating it keeps creating accounts and then creating posts for those accounts, and then those they keep morphing, but then the algorithm is pushing them because so many other AIs are liking even though it's like it's literally insane like
Mhm.
Spider Jesus and like it's just things like that, and like all of the AI comments are like wonderful, I do love him, like they're none of them
Yeah.
make any sense. It's just, and it's such a problem. And I think it's the funniest. I just think it's so fun. Like AI is an issue when it comes to art. And don't get me wrong. Like I think AI is here to help us be a tool and not for art. I think taking away something that is innately human and giving it to machines is fucking weird.
Yep.
But um that is amazing. If there's I'm like, ooh, what'd you guys do? And like all the other platforms were like, no, but Facebook was like, shh, and this is what's happened.
Yeah.
It's really funny. It's really funny. So just know I don't have Facebook. I've just been like monitoring it from like an outside perspective. And if you do have Facebook and you see like, why are so many people liking this insane AI generated artwork? They're not people. It's
Yeah.
AI. AI
Yeah.
is liking itself.
Yeah. I do
And
not have Facebook either. And that is one mental health choice that I'm very still pleased with.
mhm.
But I have seen on Reddit, you'll see people talking about the posts and things, and it's just like, why does this post like this never get likes? And it's just the most disfigured and deformed versions of human beings, like doing weird
Yeah.
things because the AI didn't get the image very great. Um,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
so interesting. Yeah.
It's been one of those things about AI that I've been like, this is glorious.
Yeah.
MySpace would never.
It's my space. Yeah. Uh,
Amazing. Well, hello. How are you guys feeling after last week? It wasn't the easiest week energetically. It really wasn't. I will say though, one thing that did come from it, and I've been talking about this for a while, we are getting a lot of energy back, which is nice. And last week was a very big energy week. Even if we were feeling yucky about stuff or it wasn't the best energy in the world, it wasn't the same sluggish purging through energy that has like kind of been on our backs for the last like 2, 3 months. It was a different energy significantly.
mhm.
It wasn't fabulous,
No.
but it was something.
Yeah. When I did my video for like the new mooning in Cancer at the bending of the nodes, and I was like, maybe this isn't a week to do things, but it's a week to tap into your existing, we talked about this on the podcast, tap into your existing support systems. And then after recording the podcast, after recording that video, I went
Mhm.
into my own therapy session, and my therapist was like, maybe you don't need to look for external support. Maybe you should tap into the support system you already have. And I was like, you just like, I don't know if
Rude.
you can, my therapist is amazing because she really supports like the astrology and the spirituality and like helps me with those contexts. And I was just like, you just said my interpretation for the new moon, and I think I have not been listening to my own advice. So thank you. So
Mhm.
that was nice.
Mhm.
And then of course, Pop, my grandfather, did pass away just as the moon and the sun came to the same degree in Cancer. So I was very much leaning on existing support systems for that. And
As you
I'm
should.
grateful for all of them. Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's super important for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, and nothing like a moment like that to to remind you, of the support systems that you have, because
Yeah.
we all come out of the woodwork at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry, but also I hope that it feels good knowing that he's not just stuck anymore. Because he was
Yeah.
stuck
He was
for a while.
stuck. Yeah. My mom actually let me know by saying Pop finally found grandma because he has spent the last 2 years looking for her. And their anniversary is this week. So
No.
I was able to remind everybody like, hey, they're going to be together for their anniversary, and that's pretty adorable. And I'm quite far away, so I was really grateful for my folk magic and my spirituality in that moment because I was able to do some Italian folk magic tradition stuff that I just kind of pushed together. I was like, I need to do something.
Yeah.
So there were candles and rituals and things that I was able to honor with that, that made me feel better and included and in touch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. No, that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I also think this kind of brings me to an interesting topic, which was not what we were planning on talking about today, but I think
Same.
it's kind
But
of
what?
funny to talk about. And I am going to go live with Rebecca on this very thing we talked about before, but we're about to come into like a significant boomer ghost problem. And I
Yeah.
think it's something worth mentioning because, like, in talking about how, your pop was stuck, like, it's going to be a big problem in like the next 5 years, the amount of boomer ghosts that we're going to have. And I like, I wish I was being silly or like joking about that. I'm so deeply not.
Mhm. Yeah.
Boomers have two very unique problems. And if you're a boomer, I'm not trying to be insulting in any sort of way. I'm really, truly not. What I'm saying is like there is the common issues amongst people of that generation that I'm speaking to. That's not you. Please don't. I'm not being mean, I promise. But what I'm saying is there is a lot of people, especially in that space, that had two things happen to them. One, they were promised that everything good would happen when you retire, and then they've now hit retirement age and it isn't,
Hmm.
which is a problem. Two, they haven't really made their peace with faith. Faith has only been something that is terrifying for them in a lot of their raising. No matter what faith it's been a very heavily fear-based faith system for the majority of that generation, which sucks. And there's a lot of control issues and egotistical stuff.
Hmm.
That doesn't make for clean passings. None of that is a happy cocktail for not becoming a ghost. Like it is very much like it is very much like we're gonna see a lot of like I think very heavily like dementia and Alzheimer's type stuff with boomers as they get older because their soul will be like peacing out, but they'll be clinging because of fear and things like that, and like trying to hang on and hang on. By the time passing actually happens, too, I think that need to feel that fulfillment of like, but I was supposed to have good things happen after retirement, and that like praise of being this person that whatever, which they never got. Plus their control issues are gonna make a lot of boomer ghosts.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like a lot.
And, to speak on that a little bit, just with the experience, because when I had my experience with Ma'am that I've shared the story of,
Yeah.
in this, and to be fair, my grandparents were all of the silent generation, Pluto in Leo. However, I totally see what you're talking about with the boomer generation, Pluto and Virgo. When I heard that Pop was coming into this week that was going to be very vital for his transition. First thing I did was I went and meditated and asked if I could check in on the situation. Now, with ma'am, I was needed, right? With grandma, I was staunchly not needed. Grandma had her grandma there, who if I have channeled a lot, and she was like, "You anchor everybody here. I've been waiting for this." And so I was to back off, right? But I could see how she was surrounded by people and animals, and like grandma was just a Disney princess. It was amazing. Um, when I tuned in, I saw tons of people that I was unfamiliar with. He was also a Taurus. I was born on his dad's birthday, and he was born 10 days after my birthday. Like we had this sort of high
Oh,
five thing growing up.
cute.
Yeah. And he was surrounded by all of these people and entities that were also there kind of trying to coach and comfort and transition
Mm-hmm.
alongside, which was really cool. I know grandma before she passed was very concerned about his spiritual situation and would
Mm-hmm.
always call me in and be like, "You need to talk to your pop about this." And I'm like, "That's not necessarily what I think he needs." So I would be there, but
Yeah.
and he did not need me in that moment either. Grandma was there. So many dogs from my dad's childhood were there. Those two
Oh.
were the best. And the two people, the dogs were the best too. I got to see some of my family's past dogs, which was awesome because we always had joint custody of dogs. Whenever we were traveling, they would take care of the dogs. So it was really cool to just be able to see all of those. And then I saw his sister that I didn't even know had passed, but she was there helping me confirm that everything I was seeing was accurate. I always ask for something that I can bring to somebody else and say, "Hey, does this make it true?" And
Right.
like I knew what bed he was in the room, and if there were other people and other kind of stuff like that. I always get the details so that I could tell my mom, but then also that she would have the evidence to believe me and what I saw.
Mm-hmm.
um and his sister, I was like, "Did Sarah pass away?" And she was like, "Oh yeah, just like a couple months ago or whatever." And I was like, "Okay, cool." She was there too, but he was surrounded by people.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that I think um, the fear might come up around people of the current generation as they are transitioning is do they actually know what it's like to receive and feel and surround themselves with
Right.
love? And
Mm-hmm.
so will they recognize people who are there to help them, even in spirit? Because there is such a rationality that got brought into it, that Pluto in
Mm-hmm.
Virgo,
Yeah.
there has to be an answer for everything. There has to be organization and control and rationale. And, some of these stereotypes of a
Mm-hmm.
Virgoan nature, but Pluto really does exaggerate that. Look at us millennials with Pluto and Scorpio. We kill everything if you look at the headlines for the last 20 years or so.
Yeah. Well, the diamond industry can kiss my ass.
I
So,
mean, I'm not mad about it. I'm just saying it's there. But yeah, like there's something to that. And so I can offer a little
Mhm.
bit of evidence to go along
Mhm.
with how that's working. And Pop truly did, like 2 weeks after grandma passed, the dementia set in out of nowhere to the point
Mhm.
where he was honestly, Dan and I said he lived an entire second lifetime and had a blast. He was like, my last conversation with him was about a squirrel that he thought was on his plate and how we shoot it away together. And it was fun. Like he was having a good quality of life and I had laughter, which was great.
Mhm.
And then when he was processed over 2 years, I imagine I had a client once who worked with people as they were transitioning in hospice. And she said, sometimes people just take that long to
Mhm.
process a lifetime. And I think that
Yeah.
that's what he was doing. And so we might see more of that, to your point,
Yeah.
coming.
Yeah. It's going to be really interesting on a spiritual level to see how stuff shakes out that way. Not to be more, can you tell we both have strong Scorpio placements?
I know we're like,
I know,
sorry, we're
not
a
to
little
be
bit
super
morbid today,
morbid,
but
right?
we
Not to
can
be
handle
super
it.
morbid, but like you wrote your obituary today. Let's talk
I
about death.
did,
Like,
did.
I'm sorry.
It's
Um, I know he's in a space he needs to be, and it was a long time coming. So
yeah, yeah,
I'm
no,
glad of that for
yeah.
you. On that note, though, we wanted to just briefly talk about because we've seen this been coming up a lot in a lot of
Mhm.
different ways with people, and it's a question that we think that is worth talking on. So we wanted to just really quickly bring up the idea of what happens if you're mad at God or your gods or deities in general or the universe for something going down. Like, what is the ramifications of that? How to handle that? Does that make you a bad spiritual person? All those concerns you might have. Um, we want to talk about those just a little bit. And just to kick that off, just gonna throw this out there. You can be as angry as you want with whoever the fuck you want to be.
Yes. Can
Go
confirm.
for it.
Yes. I
Hmm.
literally said that to my Sunday school students when I was a Sunday school teacher, which is why I was asked not to be a Sunday school teacher anymore. But
Yeah, Krista. God.
they
Morphing
were like,
young
well, what
minds
if I'm
into
not sure
angry
if I
souls.
believe in God? And I was like, don't for a couple days or for as long as it feels like you need to, because my theory is that our belief processes, our feelings, our whatever, like we deserve to have moments where we get to experiment with what life is like in
Hmm.
every facet.
Hmm.
That's why we're here. I have had phases where I've been angry at God and just not talked to them for a
Yeah.
while, or where I've been angry at them and I did stop believing for a while and then came back around to something that was a totally different relationship and definition, which I think was necessary because the old definition was not serving anything anymore.
Hmm.
And then, even the past couple of years for myself, because of what's been going on in my life, I've been having conversations where it's like, because I've seen enough, and my phone just went off, because
Hmm.
I've seen enough, I know that there's something there, but you're not feeling the way you used to feel. And I'm a little upset and I feel kind of abandoned. We need to work this out. And
Hmm.
I do speak to God that way when I feel like that's how I'm feeling. It's honesty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, what I would say too is I think there's this, I think I appreciate you pointing out its honesty because I think when I'm going to call it exercising of the world occurred with monotheistic air quotes religions, um, I think that also is what has given birth to our very like new agey love and light belief system problem that we're currently experiencing, which is a problem. It really is. If you think everything should just be love and light and focusing on that, that is a problem. That's bypassing. There's big issues with that because it's not allowing yourself to have a true and authentic experience. It's using spirituality to essentially bully yourself and others into a thought process that makes everyone else the most comfortable, and that's not great. And I will say anger with the deities or the universe kind of goes hand in hand with that. It's part of that experience because I think a lot of times when something bad happens, there's this like kind of prolific, either in religion or in New Age spirituality, belief that, oh, well, it's going to be in your highest and best good. And just remember that it's that way. And it's everything has a purpose. And don't get me wrong, everything does have a purpose. And it probably is in your highest and best good. But that's to like it. Like, that doesn't mean like,
Mm.
that highest and best good doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the comfortable thing. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the good thing. Doesn't mean it's going to be the thing that makes you the most happy. It means it's just helping you take the next step on your path, which sometimes I think sucks. Like, it truly does. And you getting angry at those things is a reasonable emotional response to the stimuli you're being given. That makes sense. That is a rational thing to do.
Mhm.
And if you ever feel like, oh no, like I shouldn't get mad at, the different deities or God or even like your guides on occasion, if you're like, I'm not getting enough communication and this bad thing just happened, like I'm going to need some freaking more. That is valid. And if you think about it, like any myth of any pantheon, any myth from any
Mhm.
culture, there
Including
is
Christianity.
those gods getting angry at us and us getting angry at them. It is
Mhm.
something that we do because that is normal. It is a beautiful human experience and it's okay. It helps us communicate better.
Yeah, I will say anger sometimes is, I call these certain things God smacks, where like you'll get a hint at something really light, and maybe we don't notice it right away, and then you'll get a
Hmm.
stronger hint, and then you get a stronger hint, and eventually maybe you get a God smack. Maybe there, or sometimes there's just a path that you're on, and it's a feeling
Hmm.
that you have to feel and learn, and it's part of that. But I remember something happening to a family member of mine. And when it happened, I tuned in and I was like, God, why did you do that to them? Because they're not going to come closer to you through this. They're going to get angry. And
Hmm.
the kind of note that I got on this was like, but they're going to talk to me. And it was just like, yeah, sometimes you have these angry moments because when we're at rock bottom, we open our minds up. We look for other options. We realize a truth that we weren't realizing before. There's so many things that happen on the other side of fear and anger that make the fear and anger very functional in that process, even though they're very
Hmm.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And to your point, and there are examples in multiple cases in the Bible, but even Jesus got mad at God,
Hmm.
saying like, "Why did you forsake me? I don't want to do this." And there was that moment, I'm pretty sure it was in Gethsemane. Um, Jesus got mad plenty of times, to be honest, but also got mad at God. Um,
Mhm.
and that happens. It's
Yeah.
okay. Anger is something we were created with the ability to feel, so it's doing something.
I always recommend too, if you're like, I am so pissed at what the world's doing right now. Why are we going through this? Why did I choose to come here? And you have that kind of feeling. I always recommend demanding clarity. Right.
Mhm.
Like that helps you process it. It helps you be like, listen, I'm mad. I'm so mad. I have all this stuff. Like this feels really shitty, but I better get some clarity of like why or what I'm going through or what direction. Like give me clarity through this thing that I'm experiencing, please.
Yep.
And you get it, like you'll be surprised, but you really, really will. Like that clarity will come. And sometimes that fuel, that energy that's associated with that anger and frustration is what brings it about.
Yeah.
Um, so that's how I always recommend you deal with it.
Yeah.
Also don't be afraid to be like, all right, guy, gods or guides or whoever you're working with, like we're gonna have a bitch sesh. Like you're gonna come here and I'm gonna yell at you. And
Yeah.
that's what's gonna happen. Like we need to talk. And
Mhm.
sometimes that requires offerings if you're doing deity work or things like that. But like you can have those conversations. You can be
Mhm.
like, I'm going to vent to you now. There's one of your guides, I guarantee you will be like, yeah, you can yell at me. What do you need? Like, come, I'll stand here and listen while like while you freak out. Because they will. That's not something that they're like not expecting.
Mhm. It's part of healthy communication in relationships on planet and
Hmm.
beyond. Like when you're having a situation with a significant other or a friend or whatever, and you're like, hey, I need to vent about something. I'm having these feelings and I want to get through this and find clarity so that the relationship can move on to the next level or so that the relationship can be mended or that we avoid resentment. I've come
Hmm.
to a point where I've full on resented God or, other entities before. And I try to avoid that really a lot because resentment is one of the more denser things that will lead to like physical issues a lot
Yeah.
quicker. I've been on the receiving end of that. But sometimes it happens even especially when you're intentionally trying to avoid it, it happens in spite of you. So it's better to just acknowledge if you're feeling something. I
Yeah.
remember in Rome, our first day, I was stomping around Rome demanding for clarity that
You
first day.
were
We
you
encountered
were
you randomly
doing
in the
so.
middle of that process.
Uh-huh.
I
Yep. Yes, you did. We ran into each other in Rome. How cool is that? Like just gonna throw that out
know.
there.
We
Like
just happened to meet at the Coliseum that day.
yeah, and it was weird that I was even walking by because I was not going to the Coliseum in any way. We were on our way over to walk along Incentive where is essentially in front of where the Praetorian Guards used to
Mm.
live in the Praetorian Barracks, as well as along the Circus Maximus to get down over to some temples that we were trying to go see. And Krista had just landed and happened to be walking around looking for food. And they both of those things
As I
happened to
do.
converge. Yeah, both of those things happened to converge on the Coliseum. And we happened to run into each other. It was really, and we were not coordinating it at all. Like it
Yeah,
literally
we
was
weren't
just,
supposed to meet until
yeah,
hours or
Weston
even
and I are
days.
just tall and ginger. And he's just
I mean, you have a certain aesthetic to you that when I see you from the back, I'm like, I know that hair, I know those outfits, and I know that hair because that's Weston. Like these two together make M and Weston. So
yeah. Yeah, that's true. Both Wes and I have a very significant aesthetic to us. It's fair.
it's awesome.
Anyway, cool. The one other thing we wanted to talk about today, so we hope that was of value to you, and we'd love to hear your thoughts if you're like pissed about things or if you're struggling with that, if it was helpful to you in any way, please feel free to comment that over on the YouTube. Which yeah, if you guys aren't watching the videos of these and you're just listening to it, first of all, thank you. We love that you're just
Yeah.
listening to it, but you might want to watch the videos of it because we get to do really some fun facial expressions and such. It's pretty fantastic. Um, any hoodle, you can comment over there. But we also wanted to talk about, we mentioned this last time, but we're doing a new spiritual program and it is we're really excited about it. It's going to be launching this Saturday. So stay tuned. If you're on either of our email lists or on our joined email list, you'll get an email about the launch, and anything like that. So it will be you'll know about it, but keep your eyes on that. If you're not part of those email lists, I recommend you hop on one,
Mhm.
either on our website, which is ninthhousepub.com, or either of our individual websites. You can go on and grab a spot in the mailing list. We both do a lot of content for our mailing list. Side note, you get once a week emails from me about your energy forecast for the week in depth, way more in depth than I do on video. So that's super valuable. And I know Krista does a huge astrology
Yeah.
forecast and all sorts of stuff for their mailing list. And
Yeah.
so like I highly I highly recommend hopping on those. But if you don't want to, that's fine. Just pick one for the announcement for this. But yeah, we're going to launch this program. It is a limited spots. We are only accepting a very limited amount of people so that we can keep the cohort small and reasonable.
Mhm.
And with that limited amount of people, it's also going to foster the best environment to dive into kind of it's basics, but it's like basics plus because we're covering the basics of what we wanted to know as basics when we started in all of these fields, which is not the same as someone who is just kind of tottering in and being like, oh, yes, Oracle cards can see the future. It's not that in any way, but it's more of like, hey, what would we actually want to have wanted to know that would have set a solid foundation for living each day in alignment with your magic
Yeah.
and all the different facets of that. And the cool thing is Kristen and I balance that really well because we both have different specialties. And so you get the basics on a lot of different things in the program, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Basically, if you're in a place where you're like, I know magic is real for everybody else, but I want to feel like it is in my everyday life, and I want to be able to live a lifestyle that feels like I am magical and know what I'm doing and get
Mm-hmm.
all of that in like 3 months. With even like, we run this kind of like a master's program course,
It
which I'm
is.
very proud of. It's well structured. It's got tons of resources. It's got tons of supplemental materials to help you. It's got the environment of a cohort of people to be there with you, group conversations, live lessons, and actual real working advice and mentorship. Like, if
Mm-hmm.
I could tell you, I struggled for more than 20 years trying to find a person to tell me how to do things the right way.
Yeah.
And we both get to be here and do that for you all, which I will say is a standard I hold myself to.
Yeah. I fully agree. It's we were really diving in and structuring out the curriculum and both of us were just like so excited about it because it's stuff that we get to really get you started in. And even if you have some basics or you but dabble in this or dabble in that, but you're just like, I just want everything to feel more magical, this is great for you. Like it really is. And we're going to cover everything from like belief work to how to like craft spell work and talisman stuff to how to start talking to your guides and gods.
How to
We're
start
going to
working with
talk
astrology, how to
how to
start
start
working with
working with astrology.
tons of divinatory
Tons of
stuff.
divination. We're going to go through so many divinatory methods and how to use those in a meaningful way. How to kind of craft your own meditations that are actually going to do things for you and channel stuff in. And we're going to do
Get
like
started on
very,
healing.
yeah, basic beginning stuff on energy healing and astral projection. Like it's just really foundational for every aspect that you might need
Mhm.
it for in your life in 3 months. And you get 2 calls a week with us, basically. So we'll have a lesson call on Monday and then a Q&A call on Friday with the cohorts. And there's a group where you guys get to become friends, which is always our favorite part of any program we ever do, because that is the best way to grow spiritually is to have spiritual friends that you can talk about shit with. Like, I'm not even joking. That is exactly the best way to do it. It is
Yeah.
so important. So we always try to facilitate that. Anyway, the program is called Incense, Outsense, and Other Nonsense. And
And it's
it
very
is launched
serious, you guys.
it's so serious. And it's launching on Saturday. Like I said, we have limited spots available. We will have all the information to view for you available on Saturday. So you can go onto our website, Ninth House Pub. You'll be able to see it and then grab a spot if that feels aligned. And we would love to have you in that space. We know you guys have been asking for this program for a really long time, and it was not in our alignment to do it until now. I just want to say it that way because we love the Forgotten Storytellers. That was an incredible program. It made us so happy. It was also time for us to transition away from that so we can focus on our own writing. Because with that, a lot of our writing energy and a lot of our creative energy in that way was going towards the clients, which was amazing. It was so beneficial. We even have an amazing human publishing this coming this very soon. It's called Shell Shocked
Yeah,
by
very
Stacy
done. Damiano.
Domino. That's what Damiano.
Damiano.
Um it's gonna be so good. We're so excited about it. And it's a very healing, spicy book.
Fun. Yeah. And
So
we'll
we
be
would love for you to
featuring
go
it.
check that out. Yeah, and
More
she
info.
might be on the podcast as well soon to talk a
Yeah.
little bit more about it as well. But anyway, we loved that program. It was amazing, and it was in our alignment to do that for as long as we did. And now it's in our alignment to transition and go more in the direction that we know that very many of you are wanting and needing from us,
Mhm.
which is this kind of beginner incense, outsense, and other nonsense. So we're really excited to kind of open this up and get to dive in with you guys. And yeah, we hope that you join and you hang out with us. It's
Yeah.
super fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And
We really, really love it.
it's got a lot of perks even outside of the program. Once the program is complete, you're not just dropped and abandoned. There are
Yeah.
so many things that we get to continue to do together,
Yeah.
which are really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna really cool. We wanted to make sure that there was opportunity for the cohorts that we do through the year to have like another kind of grounding point. So after the program, you'll even be invited back for another thing in December, which will be like a holiday program, essentially going through all of the major holidays and how to celebrate them in December,
Yeah.
which will be really nice because that's when oftentimes we feel so overwhelmed with everything. So to have just one consistent thing we can hang with is going to be really neat. Plus, there's continued every year for forever options for you to come and participate in some stuff. So, really exciting. But yeah, we're really excited about it. It will be launching this Saturday. What's the date on Saturday? I don't know. That's a
Yeah,
great
that's a
question.
great question.
I
Saturday,
know.
the 13th.
Saturday the 13th, 713. Yeah, that's when it's launching. Do I know the time? No, I do not, but I know it will be then. So just take a look at it. And it'll be ready then. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for being our listeners. We value you and appreciate you so deeply. Another quick reminder just to plug it in. We are done with the podcast Patreon. However, both of our individual Patreons, we are uploading the episodes early and doing some podcast perks on our individual tiers. So you can join either of ours. You can join both of ours because we both have different perks that you will also get on top of that.
Mhm.
And a lot of that goes from like YouTube bonuses. Like that's the same tier. I'm including my new like spiritual conundrum series where I answer your Reddit spiritual questions. I'm throwing that bonus video onto the same tier. So it's like a really big tier. You get a lot of stuff. And I know Krista, you do very similar things. There's like a lot of stuff
Yeah,
you get on
you're
that
going to
tier as
get the
well.
big download of every week what to do with the astrology and suggestions for how to work folk magic with it, among other things.
Yeah, see, that's incredible. So yeah,
Thank
and
you.
that's only we both put it on both of our $15 tiers. So for $15 a month, you get our podcast early. We're gonna work in some like shout out options for the end of the episode, things like that. But you can go to either of ours or both of ours, whatever feels most aligned with you. But just so you know, if you are listening to this and you're currently a member of the podcast Patreon, is shutting down. We are turning it off. So just so you're aware. But yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you so much for being present. And we hope that you take all of the energy and you 1, 2, 3, go make some
Make some
magic.
magic.
Ah!
I'm so glad I'm on this side of it.
Honestly, we should both put our phones up and just record it just so you can see how bad it is on this
Yeah.
end. Bye, everybody.